Hi, everyone. Welcome to Scaling Your Production Application with Amazon Lightsail. Again, my name is Emily Kruger. I am product manager for Amazon Lightsail, and we'll also be doing a number of demos today, which will be led by Gabriel Goslin, who's our web development engineer on the Lightsail team. So as we get started, our theme today is to be talking about how you go from building a single server application all the way up to building a scaled application with features like load balancing and attached block storage on Amazon Lightsail. But before we get there, I'm going to go through and do a quick intro of what is Amazon Lightsail. I know that we have a number of newbies in the audience today, people maybe who aren't necessarily using Amazon Lightsail yet. So we want to make sure that you have the full context before we dig into sort of the deeper, more technical parts of this presentation. So Amazon Lightsail is our easy cloud platform. It's meant to be the easiest way to get started on AWS. We offer bundled plans of resources that have compute power, storage, and networking all together for one flat, predictable price. So for context, our least expensive bundle starts at only $5 a month. Each of our Lightsail servers comes fully configured, so you're able to, with only 3 clicks, create a Lightsail server and have it up and running in really less than a minute. We also have our own easy-to-use console. It's meant to have everything that you need to manage that server, launch other resources to scale your application over time. So what we're going to focus on for most of this presentation is our easy growth path, that you can just start with a single server and how to scale that up over time using the Lightsail console. Part of that scaling path is that you're able to access many of the 100+ AWS services that we have available. And then you can also automate your entire Lightsail experience using our own API. So that's a very brief intro to Amazon Lightsail. I'd encourage any of you who are new to the service to check out some of our earlier webinars. They're all posted online. You can also just go into the Lightsail console directly and start playing around. It's really easy to use. I think you'll find that there's very little learning curve just to get started. So we're very busy in 2017. So those of you who've been following along with Lightsail, you will have seen a number of launches. We went from being in one region in only US East, Northern Virginia, to now being in 10 global regions worldwide. We localized the console and our website into 8 languages. So you can now, if your English is not your first language, you can be interacting with Lightsail directly in Spanish, French, German, simplified Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Brazilian Portuguese, and of course English. We also launched the ability to have a Windows server on Lightsail in addition to our Linux server options. And then our 2 latest features happened just at the end of the year, were the ability to attach additional block storage to your Lightsail instances, and also the ability to add load balancers in front of your application. So we're going to talk in some detail about those exciting new features today as part of how you scale your application. So here's our roadmap for our presentation today. We're going to talk about how you're growing your application on Lightsail, starting with creating your first instance. So we'll show how that works and show some of the options for getting started in the Lightsail console. Then we'll talk about how you can scale your app from within the Lightsail interface itself. So you're able to add larger plans, you can add more instances, you can add storage, you can add a load balancer, all without ever leaving the Lightsail experience. And finally, we'll talk about how you can add AWS services to your Lightsail application. So this would be adding services that we have in the AWS platform today that are going to be managed from outside of Lightsail experience, but can add a lot of richness and feature capabilities to your application beyond the services and features that are available in Lightsail today. So with that, we'll get to our demo about launching your first instance, and Gabriel is going to show us how easy it is.
Thanks, Emily. Hi, everybody. My name is Gabriel Goslin. I'm a web development engineer on the Lightsail team, and I want to show you some of the stuff that we've built for you today. So one of the things everybody's going to need when they use Lightsail is an instance. So let's start by creating one of those. As you can see, one of the first options you have here is to choose which region you'd like to create an instance in. So you can see that we have presence in the United States, Europe, and through Asia as well. The next choice that you have to make is what kind of instance do you want to have? So you can see we support two platforms, Linux, Unix, and Windows. Under Windows, we have a couple of pre-configured OS only and one SQL Server Express. If you need more information about what the various options are, you'll see throughout the application we have these helpful markers that open up a help panel on the side. And here you can actually get links out to relevant pages through to AWS to actually get a sense of what some of these images will be. So I'll stick with WordPress. It's quite a popular instance that we have going on. And you can see you've got some more options down here. Launch scripts allow you to run certain scripts on startup. If you need it, you'll know what it is. Otherwise, a lot of people just go without the launch script. And by default, we have created an SSH key pair for each region that you have instances and other resources in. And that we store both the public and private key pair so that you can always download that. This is a good option for people who are still new to managing secure keys. We have this for you. If you want to upload your own, you're totally free to do so. If you want to create a new one, we will not hold on to the private key for a new one that's created. We only hold the one for default. And even that, we by default encrypt it in such a way that it can only be used with your user. It is quite a secure option. So next choice that you have are various bundle options. And you can see you can start, if it's your first month, you can use the $5 for free. And then it goes right on up. And Emily mentioned some of the bundles and the sizing, and you can see right here what you get. And as long as you stay within your data transfer limits, there are no hidden fees here. It really is exactly what's on the tin. If you only use a few hours, you'll be billed for the hours you use. It's not the entire month. So I'm going to go ahead and create this WordPress instance. Normally, you go through really quickly, and in under a minute, you could start your own instance. While we're waiting for that to start, I just wanted to show you another interesting feature of the Lightsail platform. Right here, I've got a Windows instance that's already started up. So I'm going to click here to actually connect via a protocol called RDP. And you can see, hey, I've got this Windows instance already running. I was doing some demos earlier where basically I can say, hello webinar. And if I wanted to actually go and copy this text, if it was actually a password or something like that, I could copy it and it would be available down here in my little clipboard window. And if I want to say, hello Windows from here, whatever I enter here, whether it's pasted or whatnot, it will always be available. And I can Control-V to paste hello Windows right there. So you can see we've got this bi-directional clipboard that's always working with this icon down here. You have all the other functionality that you'd normally have on a Windows instance available with one click. Now, one other thing that might be useful with an instance is what's called a static IP address. And what that means is that currently, you can see there's a public IP address here, but if I were to stop and restart this instance, I would get a different IP address. If I want that IP address never to change, I can actually go over to my networking section and attach a static IP. You can either choose an existing one or you can create a new one. And what that'll do is it means that whenever you connect to an instance, you will always have the same IP address, which is really handy for DNS records or if you're connecting from another machine. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it back to Emily.
Thanks, Gabriel. That was awesome. All right, so you got your first instance up and running in the Lightsail console. It was pretty easy. You're feeling good about yourself. Now what can you do in order to be able to scale your application and scale that instance out? The first thing that you're able to do is you can increase your plan size. So you will have noticed when Gabriel was showing you how the launch experience for Lightsail instances that we have 5 plan sizes. So if you started off your first month on your $5 free plan and you get to month 2 and you're like, you know what, I really think I need a more powerful server than that in order to run my application. Then you can just choose to increase your plan size, and Gabriel's going to show you how that works. It involves creating a snapshot and just choosing a larger plan to create an instance from that snapshot. You also can obviously connect multiple instances together. So this could be, for instance, creating dedicated nodes or dedicated instances for specific workloads. For instance, creating a database server or creating a server specifically for email that was to support your application. And then you can also create redundancy. So today, you are able to create instances and put them in multiple regions. And we're going to talk in some depth a little bit later about our load balancer feature, which will allow you to connect those applications together and really make sure that if anything happens to any of your instances, that your application stays up and running. So one of the first things that you can do, or that we want to really dive deep on, is attaching Lightsail block storage. So as I mentioned, this is a brand new feature for Lightsail. We launched this in the end of October. And like all of our Lightsail experiences, it's intended to be extremely easy to manage. It's something that you can do intuitively from the Lightsail console without necessarily needing to know a lot about block storage itself or having a lot of background in managing disks or volumes, depending on what background you come from for the terminology. So Lightsail block storage is special because it's highly available. So we are automatically replicating all of your block storage components within the availability zone. So in case of any component failure, your application and its data will be safe. It also offers, like all block storage, very low latency performance. What Gabriel will go over this in a little bit in the demo, but we have all of your block storage exist in the same availability zone as your instance, and that allows there to be a very low latency communication in between both parts of that application. It's also scalable. You can grow those disks just like you can grow your instance sizes. And we also encrypt all of our disks by default, which makes them very secure. So what can you do with block storage? I won't spend a lot of time going over the specific words in this slide because you're going to see it in action with Gabriel, but briefly, just to give you a little bit of a taste of what you're going to see. So the first is that you're able to create your disks. You have the same easy launch experience that you have with instances is available for disks as well. You can then manage your disks all from one place in the Lightsail console. And from there, you can choose what to do with your disks. Once it's been created, you can attach it, detach it, move them between instances, etc. And then finally, you're able to back up your disks. You can back them up by taking a snapshot of your entire instance with all the attached disks, or you can choose to back up individual disks separately. So you get a lot of flexibility about how much data you want to store and how much backup and redundancy you want to have for your application on the snapshot and backup side. So with that, we'll hand it over to Gabriel, and he's going to go over these 2 important steps for scaling your application.
Hello again, everyone. I'm going to show you a little bit more about using storage to attach it to your instance. As you can see, by default, you'll land on the Instances tab, but you've also got networking, storage, and snapshots. So we're going to look at both storage and snapshots in this section. If I wanted to create a new disk, all I do is under the Storage tab, go to Create a Disk. But before I do that, I want to actually double check, okay, where is this WordPress instance? Because I want more GIFs on my blog, so I need more storage for that. It's under Ohio Zone A. So what I need to do when I'm creating this disk is to actually make sure that it's being made in Ohio Zone A. If you make instances in multiple regions, it's especially important to make sure that you are in the same both region and zone Otherwise, for low latency, we just don't allow you to attach an instance to a disk that's not in the same zone. So we're in the same zone, same region, that's all good. I can now choose a disk size. We've chosen a few pre-configured size here, but really you can choose any size here, and we have a preset to 16 if you want to choose a custom value, but you can go all the way up to 16 terabytes. You will be charged, and we show you a preview how much you will be charged for the amount of disk that you're using per month. Okay, so let's call this demo disk 2, and I'll go ahead and create this. And immediately on the management page, you can see here, I can choose WordPress, that instance that I was talking about before, to attach to. The one option you have before attaching is the device path. It will automatically choose an open device path for you, so usually you don't need to customize it unless you have some very specific configurations. I'm going to go ahead and attach that. So now, if I go back to home and I go to WordPress, that blog, that instance that I was talking about, under storage, you can see I've got my demo disk 2 that I've attached. So I've got an instance and I've got disks attached to it. The next thing I want to do is actually create a backup or a snapshot. My WordPress blog is pretty popular, and I want a little bit more processing power and a little bit more transfer. So the easiest way to do that is to take a snapshot so that I can then create a new instance from that snapshot. So to do that, under the Instance Management tab, go to Snapshots. I'll click Create a Snapshot here. And when I create a snapshot of an instance with attached storage, it will create a snapshot of all 3 volumes, the system volume and the 2 attached disks in that one snapshot. If you want to create an individual snapshot for a disk, you can do so under the disk management page under the Snapshots tab, very similar to the instance. So I can click Create a Snapshot, and that will just be for the disk itself. Now, going back to home, I can switch to the snapshots view, and you can see here that under my WordPress Ohio 1 blog, I've got one snapshot that's creating, and I've created one before the demo. If I click Create a New Instance, you can see here, this is very similar to the instance creation page, but you're locked to a snapshot source. So the blueprint and the disk and bundle size are set by default. But if I want to have a larger instance size, I can choose, $10 or $20 a month, depending on the resource needs that I have. Once I create a larger instance, though, I won't be able to size back down. So if you created a $10 a month bundle and then decided that you want to scale back down to a $5 a month, that's just not possible. The system disk, as you can see, is larger on larger bundle sizes, and we can't resize that back down for you automatically in a safe manner. So I can go ahead and create this snapshot. I'll actually go ahead and create a snapshot of my Nginx demo 1 here, because we'll see why in a moment. And with that, I'll hand it back to Emily.
That was awesome, thanks. All right, load balancing is our next exciting feature that we want to cover. This we launched at reInvent this past year at the end of November. So again, another brand new feature on Lightsail, really focusing on making Lightsail ready to support more and more powerful applications from inside of our easy-to-use experience. So our load balancers are, again, very easy to launch, and they're intended to help you to create high availability applications. And so with a load balancer, and we'll go over a schema of what this looks like in a bit for those of you who might not be familiar with load balancing, But your load balancer, will sit in front of your application and help direct traffic to your backend or your target instances, as we call them, to be able to make sure that if you have a lot of traffic coming to your website unexpectedly, that it stays up and running, or if you were to experience a failure or an issue with one of your servers, that it only goes to the servers that are up and running. Like everything in Lightsail, it's really easy to use. You don't necessarily need a background in load balancing or using load balancers to be able to get started. We're also extremely excited about offering free SSL or TLS certificates with our application, with our load balancers. So we have an experience built into the Lightsail console that allows you to manage your certificates, to create them, to validate them, and then to attach them to your load balancer. And then you're able to support secured traffic to your application, again, really very easily. And finally, like everything in Lightsail, load balancing has predictable pricing. So we have a flat monthly fee of $18 per month. Like Lightsail instances, that fee is billed hourly. So if you're only using your load balancer for whatever reason for, say, 5 hours of a month, you're only going to be billed for 5 hours of that time period, as opposed to the entire $18. So here's a little schema about how load balancing works. In Lightsail, there's a variety of ways. For those of you who are familiar with the AWS ecosystem and services know that we have 3 different flavors of load balancing today. This is how load balancing works within Lightsail. So the first is that your Lightsail load balancer can be set up to accept HTTP or HTTPS traffic. For the HTTPS traffic, you're going to want to set up the certificates, and Gabriel's going to show you how that works in action. From there, the Lightsail load balancer handles all that traffic and will distribute it using a round-robin algorithm to the instances that are on the back end. So here you can see that I have instances that are spread across 2 availability zones, so that I know that if there were to be any type of issue happening in availability zone A, for instance, that I would still have instances that would be running in availability zone B. Lightsail has automated health checks that'll go out and ping a path that you set for each of these servers. So for instance, maybe the homepage of your application or of your website. And if it comes back positive, and says, "Hey, I'm here, I'm working," the Lightsail will send the load balancer will send traffic there. If it doesn't respond, then Lightsail will not send traffic there and will just redistribute the traffic to only go to healthy instances. And that way you know that your customers are always getting an experience that shows your application in its best light and up and running and performing as expected. Then you can also optionally add a backend database to your instance or to your application if you're setting up a load balanced environment. So, and this is a little bit more technical than we're going to get into today. We're planning a webinar coming up in a few months that'll be actually more of a deep dive on building out high availability applications. But for many types of applications, you will have a database running on each of your instances. If you're going to load balance your application, you would want to centralize that database in order to make sure that you're keeping data consistency across all of your instances. And Gabriel will touch on this a little. Again, it's a little bit too much in depth to go into today, but it's something I want you to know is a possibility and often a recommended architecture depending on what application you're building on Lightsail. And then finally, you can see if Lightsail instance 4 down here becomes unhealthy, we stop sending the traffic there, and it would go and only be distributed between instances 1, 2, and 3. All right, what can you do with load balancing? Again, I'm not going to go through these bullet points in a lot of detail. I'll let that be something that Gabriel shows you in the demo portion. But here are the major things that you can do with Lightsail load balancers. First, you can create and configure your load balancer. The create process for load balancers, again, very easy. Only a few choices here. You choose your region, you name your load balancer, and you hit create. Once you've created your load balancer, you have a couple of choices that you can make in order to edit that and configure the load balancer how you'd like. So the first would be enabling HTTPS, which is setting up your certificates. Next is the editing that health check path so that your load balancer knows what to ping in order to make sure that your services are up and running on your application. And the last is that you can enable session persistence. And the session persistence directs traffic to, or directs specific customers to an instance, the same instance for a specific period of time. And this is important in use cases like where you may have to authenticate users, and you want to make sure that the customer or a visitor to your application while they're visiting your website is always hitting the same server so that they're not logged out of your of the experience, and so you keep logged in. And so there's a couple of other use cases that are important for session persistence. Again, a little bit more technical than we're going to go today, but we do have documentation about this on the Lightsail website if you're interested, or you think maybe your application could benefit from this. Once you've created and configured your load balancer, you can manage it. Again, very easy to use experience from the console where you can see all of your resources, all of your attached backend or target instances in the same place. And then you can manage those target instances. You can attach more, you can detach them as your load changes. So for instance, if you knew you were going to have a big marketing promotion for a website, for instance, you might choose to attach more target instances to your load balancer temporarily. And then once you've had that spike in traffic, and everything is performed as expected, you can remove them when you don't necessarily need them anymore. You can also obviously edit some of these settings. And if you're a API user or using the CLI, you can see metrics also for your load balancer. And then finally, you can manage certificates. So again, this is something we're extremely excited about. We think we have created a really great, easy experience to be able to add secure SSL certs to your website. So here I won't go through these steps because Gabriel's going to show them to you, but there's a handful of steps you need to take in order to create, verify ownership, and attach to your load balancer. But the great thing is once that's done, you're done forever. We have a managed experience for renewal. And so as long as you keep a lot of the settings the same on the DNS side, and again, Gabriel will go over that, we will automatically renew those certificates each year for you, and you don't have to worry about it. And even better, they're free. So with that, Gabriel is going to show you load balancer.
Thanks, Emily. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a little bit about load balancers. After a certain point, having just one instance might not be enough for you. Either you need more processing power, or you just have so much traffic that you need to distribute the load, or maybe you want to make sure that you have redundancy between availability zones within a region. That's what load balancers are for. So on the networking tab, which is where you can also create static IPs and DNS zones, I'm going to go ahead and create a load balancer. There's really not much to the creation page here. We want to create our load balancer in the same region as our other resources. And if you stay in the same region, you'll always have your resources created in the same region. So I'm safe here, everything's in Ohio. The other thing that we wanted to just call out here is most people will want HTTPS, that is secure traffic, going through their load balancer. You'll need to do a few more steps once you've got your load balancer to configure that. So we wanted to call out that it is possible, but you'll need to do a few more steps. So I'll go ahead and create this load balancer. And you can see that we're already on the management page. So with a load balancer, the first thing you need is multiple instances to balance between. So we'll choose Nginx Demo 1 and attach that. And I've got another Nginx with the same configuration, so I'll attach that as well. So now you can see that warning went away. We've got at least 2 instances attached to my load balancer so that there's actually load being balanced between multiple instances. One quick call out here, if you have a very heavy front page of your application and you wanted to maybe create a customized health check path, you can do that. And let's say I wanted to use MI up as my health check. you could set that, and you could have a custom one that just does a basic system check to make sure that the instance is in good condition and can accept traffic. Periodically, the load balancer will check whatever path you have here on your instance, and it will confirm that the instance is in fact ready for traffic. I won't save that because my Nginx servers are just serving from the root path. So this is the part that I'm sure everybody's more interested in, which is how do I get secure traffic going to my load balancer? So what you need is a certificate, which says, yes, I own this domain. All the traffic coming to it can trust that these are in fact the right servers for this domain. So I will use the domain that I have, which is lsalbtesting.com. And I'll make sure that it's a new certificate name. And I go and click create. So what this does is it starts the process of creating a certificate through AWS. Now, you'll see in a moment when it actually comes up, there is more work for you to do in order to get a valid certificate. Here, you'll see that we need to go and create a CNAME record. And what that is with your domain registrar, it proves to Amazon that you in fact have control of that domain, that you're not spoofing in any way. And so the way that you would do this with Lightsail is, if I open up in a new tab here, I can go to networking, and let's say that this was the LSALB domain name. You can see here that I can add another CNAME record, and it would just be the full CNAME record value here. That period, and the value here. Okay, so that is the value that we want. As you can see, that doesn't work because it's not a subdomain, but it would be the same process for you. The validation will usually take a few minutes. The faster you add the records for it to validate, the faster you'll actually get the validation working, because it pulls and it sort of does a back off. So it's better to get this done ASAP. I've already got a load balancer that I've pre-configured, just because sometimes this can take a few moments. So I will show you that on my demo balancer, I have HTTPS, because once I had my certificate, I came here and I chose Lightsail demo or any valid certificate from this dropdown, and that's all you need to do to get secure traffic going for you. All right, so I've shown you load balancer with instances and a verified certificate so that you can get HTTPS traffic going for you. I'll hand it back to Emily.
All right, great. Now we're at the final part of our presentation and the final way that you can scale your application today on Amazon Lightsail. So up until now, we've been talking about experiences that you can do 100% from inside of the Lightsail console, or 100% using the Lightsail API if you prefer. Now, as being part of AWS, Lightsail obviously has access to many of the 100+ AWS services that we have available today in the entire AWS environment. Which is really exciting, because it means that you, as an AWS customer, have the benefit of using a very easy-to-use experience in Lightsail, but also have the power of all of these services that AWS is continually improving and adding to over time from the AWS console. So for all of these experiences, you would actually log into the AWS console, create and manage those resources and services there. So there's kind of two ways that you're able to connect AWS services to Lightsail. The first is to enable VPC peering within Lightsail. And this is just an easy toggle that Gabriel will show you from inside of the Lightsail console. Once that's enabled, you're able to allow your Lightsail resources to communicate to resources that are inside of your AWS default VPC. Not every AWS service uses VPCs, however, so you also have the ability to connect to Lightsail-based applications using the public network, and so this would be just communicating and attaching those services over the internet. So just give you a quick taste of some of the services that you could connect, and this is by no means a finite list. In fact, since AWS is launching new services every day, we expect these lists would only grow and grow. But the first left-hand column here talk about services that you can connect with VPC peering. So we think a great service to be able to extend your Lightsail application capabilities is our managed database service, or RDS. So this would allow you to very easily create a powerful database. For instance, if you're building that load balanced application, you want a central database node, you could use RDS for that. You also can connect to all these services and more on the right-hand side. You're using your AWS account using over the internet. So this would include S3, our object storage service, our CDN, our content delivery network, which through CloudFront, et cetera. Again, we think that these would be really useful services for scaling out in an application as well. All right, so now Gabriel's going to show you a very short demo on how this might work to connect AWS services to Lightsail. We do have a webinar coming up in the next couple of months that will be on scaling high availability applications or building high availability applications on Lightsail. And that will be a much more technical demo. So those of you who are interested to see sort of the next level down in technical details on connecting these services, we encourage you to attend that webinar as well.
Hi, everyone. One more quick demo. I just wanted to let you know that choosing Lightsail also means that you get access to a bunch of AWS resources as well. So in Lightsail, we've chosen a few things that a lot of people will need in the space. But let's say you want an RDS database because you want AWS to manage everything and you just want a connection to it. One of the things with AWS is that you can actually use VPC peering for a private connection within AWS's network between your resources. That means nothing's going over the public internet. So how would you go about making that happen? It's actually pretty easy. Under Account, you can go to Advanced, and here under Advanced, you have this VPC peering option. You can see I've already enabled it, but as long as you have resources in the default VPC in your AWS account in a region, all you have to do is click to enable it. I'll click to show you that it's easy to disable as well. So I'll disable Oregon. I mentioned RDS databases before. So here's one that I've pre-configured. This is just, load balanced Lightsail demo. I've chosen Postgres, but really the important thing when you are creating an RDS database is to make sure that the network traffic is actually private traffic. And you'll see it's right down. Publicly accessible should be set to no. If it's set to yes, then you can still connect to it. It just won't be over the VPC. So that is the one piece that you really need to make sure when you are creating an RDS resource for use with Lightsail and a VPC. So what does this mean? Well, let's take a look. I'm here on my Mac that I'm using to demo, and if I try to telnet to that load balanced Lightsail RDS instance, it's just going to try. It can maybe resolve the IP address, but it's not inside the VPC, so it can't actually connect to that RDS instance. However, I've SSH'd into a demo box that I have within my Lightsail account, and you can see here, if I go to Telnet, immediately it connected, and I just need to, start typing Telnet characters, which of course I wouldn't do, but this was just a quick demo. All right, so you've seen that you can create an instance in a few minutes, you can attach extra storage to it, and you can load balance loads to multiple instances. Once you've got that set up, you can actually add an RDS instance or any number of other AWS resources, and you're really set to scale a pretty decent application within Lightsail. So I hope this has been helpful, and have a great day.
Awesome, thank you. So we are going to be answering questions for the next little while. I'll be answering some of these questions live, so you all can hear the answers. We also have our great moderators who have been answering questions throughout the webinar here to help answer questions one-on-one too. So we'll try to get to as many as we can with the remaining time.